Elon, I, the Tetragrammaton, the Lord God Most High, I do exercise thee and do powerfully command thee, O Spirit. Elon, I, the Tetragrammaton, the Lord God Most High, I do exercise thee and do powerfully command.
In the dark shadows, in the white cold, fearlessly we search for knowledge new and old. We drink the strong spirits and read the ancient tomes. The order of the Abracast. We are the brave and the bold. Occult, history, conspiracy, and violence.
So if you remember last episode, where we were, let's see, the sorry, my bad, Metatron, Moses starts talking to the burning bush, and Metatron takes him up and like gives him this terrifying tour of the heavens, and he sees all these crazy angels, and Metatron's like, yo, don't be afraid of it, fear not, and don't be terrified of these of these clearly terrifying angels. And I forgot to mention that Metatron appears in my tarot card deck. He's the Hermit. If you want to go check it out. It's a very cool card in my humble opinion. Anyhow, so he's got one or two more stops before he returns back to Earth, and just gonna go ahead and get into that right after introducing myself. This is the Abracast, and I'm your humble host, John Towers, and we're going to be talking about Moses as he visits paradise and he visits hell. So when Moses was on the point of departing from heaven, a celestial voice sounds, and he says, Moses, you camest hither, and thou didst see my throne of glory. And now thou shalt see also paradise and hell. And God dispatched Gabriel on the errand of showing hell to him, and terrified by its fires when he caught sight of them. As he entered the portals of hell, Moses refused to go farther, but the angel encouraged him, saying, there is a fire that not only burns, but also consumes, and that fire will protect thee against hell fire, so thou canst step on it, and yet thou wilt not be will not be seared. Hold on, I'm sorry. As Moses entered hell, the fire withdrew a distance of 500 parsangs, and the angel of hell, Nasragel, asked him, who art thou? And he answered, I am Moses, the son of Amram. And Nasragel, I think I just changed his name, Nazargiel, says, this is not thy place, thou belongest in paradise. And Moses said, I came hither to see the manifestation of the power of God. And then said God to the angel of hell, go and show hell unto Moses, and how the wicked are treated here. Immediately he went with Moses, walking before him like a pupil before his master. And thus they entered hell together, and Moses saw men undergoing torture by the angels of destruction, and some of the sinners were suspended by their eyelids, and some by their ears, and some by their hands, and some by their tongues, and they cried bitterly, and women were suspended by their hair and their breasts, and in other ways all on chains of fire. The angel of hell explained, "These hang by their eyes because they looked lustfully upon the wives of their neighbors, and with coveted eyes upon possessions of their fellow men. These hang by their ears because they listened to empty and vain speech, and turned their ear away from hearing the Torah. And these hang by their tongues because they talked slander and accustomed their tongues to foolish babbling. And these hang by their feet because they walk with them in order to spy unto their fellow men. But they walked not to the synagogue to offer prayer to their Creator. These hang by their hands because with them they robbed their neighbor of their possessions and committed murder. These women hang by their hair and their breasts because they uncovered them in the presence of young men, so that they convinced desire into them and fell into sin." Moses heard hell cry with a loud and bitter cry, saying to the angel of hell, "Give me something to eat. I am hungry." And the angel said, "What shall I give thee?" And the Desians of hell said, "Give me the souls of the pious." And the angel says, "The Holy One, blessed be he, will not deliver the souls of pious unto thee." And Moses saw a place called Aluka, where sinners were suspended by their feet, their heads downwards, and their bodies are covered in black worms, and each 500 parsangs long, and they lamented and they cried, "Woe unto us for the punishment of hell, and give us death that we may die." And the angel of hell explained, "These are the sinners that swore falsely, profaned the Sabbath and the holy days, and despised the sages. They called their neighbors by unseemly nicknames, and wronged the orphan and the widow, and bore false witness. Therefore hath God delivered them to these worms." Moses went hence to another place, and he saw sinners prone on their faces with 2,000 scorpions lashing and stinging and tormenting them, while the tortured victims cried bitterly. Each of the scorpions had 70,000 heads, and each head 70,000 mouths, and each mouth 70,000 stings, and each sting 70,000 pouches of poisons and venoms. And the sinners are forced to drink down, although the anguish is so racking that their eyes melt in their sockets. And the angel of hell explains, "These are the sinners who caused the Israelites to lose their money, who exalted themselves above their community, and who put their neighbors to shame in public, who divided their fellow Israelites into the hands of the Gentiles, and who denied the Torah of Moses, and who maintained that God is not the creator of the world." So here again, we're seeing this idea of God's mastery of time. This angel, with the divine power of the Almighty God, is speaking to Moses about shit that he hasn't even done yet. Moses hasn't wrote the Torah yet. Moses, the last episode, whoever he was talking to mentioned something about the cedar tree on Mount Sinai, where he's going to receive the 10 Commandments. That shit hasn't happened yet. He hasn't done any of that yet. But yet we still see that there's this idea, this sort of time travel idea, or peering through time. People are already being punished for doing something they couldn't possibly do before Moses did it, right? The angel of hell said to Moses, "Come and see how the sinners are burnt in hell." And Moses answered, and he says, I can't go there. But the angel replied, "Let the light of the Shekinah precede thee, and the fire of hell will have no power over thee." And Moses yielded, and he saw how the sinners were burnt, one half of their body being immersed in fire and the other half in snow. So this is another kind of echo from last episode where the angels were made out of fire. Half of them, like the lower half, I think, were fire, and the upper half, I think, were ice. We're getting the same sort of idea, which is interesting. It's like an echo. As above, so below, literally. As above how the angels are, so below how the people in hell are being tormented. All right, where was I? Oh, yeah. Worms. While worms bred in their own flesh crawled over them, and the angels of destruction beat them incessantly, the angel of hell explained, "These are the sinners who committed incest, murder, and idolatry, who cursed their parents and their teachers, and who, like Nimrod and others, called themselves gods." In this place, which is called Abaddon, we saw the sinners taking snow by stealth and putting it in their armpits to relieve the pain of their inflicted by their scorching fire. And he was convinced that the saying was true, "The wicked mend not their ways even at the gates of hell." Here we got a name drop to one of our boys, right? Nimrod. We spent a lot of episodes in the Genesis series talking about the Tower of Babel, the Tower of Babel, Nimrod, Tammuz, and World War Z. So if you're unfamiliar, you're free to go back and listen to those episodes. So, oh shit, where was... Okay, as Moses departed from hell, he prayed to God, "May it never be thy will, O Lord, my God and the God of my fathers, to save me and the people of Israel from the places I have seen in hell." But God answered him, and he said, "Moses, before me there is no respecting of persons and no taking of gifts. Whoever doth good deeds entereth paradise, and he that doth evil must go to hell." At the command of God, Gabriel now leads Moses to paradise. As he entered, two angels come towards him. They say to him, "Thy time has not yet arrived to leave the world." And Moses made answer, "What ye say is true, but I have come to see the reward of the pious in paradise." And the angels extolled Moses, saying, "Hail, Moses, the servant of God. Hail, Moses, born of a woman, and that has found worthy to ascend to the seven heavens. Hail to the nation which thou belongest." And under the tree of life, Moses saw the angel Shemshiel and the prince of paradise, and who leads him through it and shows him all there is within. He saw 70 thrones made of precious stones, standing on the feet of fine gold, each throne surrounded by 70 angels, but one of them was larger than all the others, and it was encircled by 120 angels. And the throne of Abraham. And when Abraham beheld Moses, he heard who he was and what his purpose was in visiting the paradise. And he exclaimed, "Praise ye Lord, for he is good, for his mercy endureth forever." And Moses asked Shamshiel about the size of paradise, but not even he, who is the prince thereof, could answer these questions. For there is none that can gauge it. It can neither be measured nor fathomed nor numbered. But Shamshiel explained to Moses about the thrones, and that there were different ones from the other, some being of silver, some of gold, some of precious stones, are for the pious. Those of ruby for the just, those of gold for repentant sinners, and those of silver for the righteous proselytes. And the greatest of them all, continued Shamshiel, is the throne of Abraham. The next size, the throne of Isaac and Jacob. Then come the thrones of the prophets and the saints and the righteous, and each in accordance with each man's worth and his rank and the good deeds he has performed in his lifetime. Moses asked then for whom the throne of copper was intended. And the angel answered, for the sinner that has a pious son. Through the merits of his son he receiveth it as his share. Again Moses looked, and he beheld a spring of living water welling up from under the tree of life and dividing into 4 streams which pass under the throne of glory, and thence encompassed paradise from end to end. And he saw 4 rivers flowing under each of the thrones of the pious, one of honey, the second of milk, the third wine, and the fourth pure balsam. Beholding all these desirable and pleasant things, Moses felt great joy, and he said, Oh, how great is thy goodness, which thou hast laid up for them that fear thee, which thou hast wrought for them that put their trust in thee before the sons of men. And Moses left paradise, and he returned to earth. And at the moment of his departure, a heavenly voice cried aloud and said, Moses, the servant of the Lord, thou art faithful in his house, even as thou hast seen the reward that is laid up for the pious in the world to come. So also thou wilt be worthy of seeing the life of the world that shall be in future time. Thou and all Israel, ye shall see the rebuilding of the temple in the event of the Messiah. Behold the beauty of the Lord, and meditate in his temple. In the world to come, Moses, besides sharing the joys of Israel, will continue his activity as the teacher of Israel. For the people will go before Abraham and request him to instruct them in the Torah. He will send them to Isaac, saying, Go to Isaac, he has studied more of the Torah than ever I studied. But Isaac in turn will send them to Jacob. Go to Jacob, he hath more conversed with the sages than ever I had. And Jacob will send them to Moses, saying, Go to Moses, he was instructed by the Torah by God himself. In the Messianic time, Moses will be one of the 7 shepherds that shall be the leaders of Israel with the Messiah. So we're going to flip and go to the Bible here in a second. So when he leaves paradise, he finds himself in the desert, still with the burning bush. Again, time doesn't matter when you're dealing with God. When you're dealing with God, God called to him from within the bush, Moses, Moses, and Moses said, Here I am. And the bush says, Do not come any closer, God said. Take off your sandals, for this place where you are standing is holy ground. And then he said, I am the God of your father, and the God of Abraham, and the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob. And this Moses hid his face because he was afraid to look at God. I have indeed seen the misery of my people in Egypt, and I've heard them crying out because of their slave drivers, and I'm concerned about their suffering, so I have come down to rescue them from the hand of the Egyptians, and to bring them out of that land and into a good, spacious land, a land flowing with milk and honey, the home of the Canaanites, Hittites, Amorites, Perizzites, and Hivites, and Jebusites. And now the cry of the Israelites has reached me. And I have seen the ways of the Egyptians are oppressing them. So now I go and I'm sending you to the Pharaoh to bring my people, the Israelites, out of Egypt. But Moses said to God, "Who am I, that I should go to Pharaoh and bring the Israelites out of Egypt?" And God said, "I will be with you. And this will be the sign to you that it is I who have sent you. When you have brought the people out of Egypt, you will worship God on this mountain." Moses said to God, "Suppose I go to the Israelites and say to them that the God of your fathers has sent me to you, and they ask me, 'What is his name?' And then what should I tell them?" And God said to Moses, "I am who I am." This is what you are to say to the Israelites: "I am has sent me to you." God also said to Moses, "Say to the Israelites, 'The Lord, the God of your fathers, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, the God of Jacob, has sent me to you.'" "This is my name, forever the name by which I am to be remembered from generation to generation. Go assemble the elders of Israel and say to them, 'The Lord, the God of your fathers, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, appeared to me and said, I have watched over you and have seen what has been done to you in Egypt. And I have promised to bring you up out of your misery in Egypt and into the land of the Canaanites, the Hittites, the Amorites, etc., 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 to the land flowing with milk and honey. The elders of Israel will listen to you. Then you and the elders are to go to the king of Egypt and say to him, 'The Lord of the God of Hebrews has met with us, and let us take a 3-day journey into the desert and offer sacrifices to the Lord our God. But I know that the king of Egypt will not let you go unless a mighty hand compels him. So I will stretch out my hand and strike the Egyptians with all the wonders that I will perform among them. And after that he will let you go. And I will make the Egyptians favorably disposed towards his people, so that when you leave, you will not go empty-handed. Every woman is to ask her neighbor and any woman living in her house for articles of silver and gold, and for clothing which you will put on your sons and daughters, and so you will plunder the Egyptians." Moses answered, "What if they do not believe me or listen to me? And they say, the Lord did not appear to you." Then the Lord said to him, "What is that in your hand?" "A staff," Moses replied. "Throw it on the ground." So Moses threw the staff on the ground, and it became a snake, and he ran from it. And the Lord said to him, "Reach out your hand and take it by the tail." So Moses reached out his hand and he took hold of the snake, and it turned back into a staff in his hand. "This," he said, "the Lord, is so that they may believe that the Lord, the God of their fathers, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob has appeared to you." So this is portending. This is setting up the magic duel that happens between Moses and Aaron and the Egyptian magicians. That's going to come up later when they start their beef. This, which is the inspiration for my Three of Wands card, my tarot card, the Three of Wands, is basically represents or symbolizes the magical duel of these rods and these snakes that happen. Then the Lord said, "Put your hand inside your cloak." So this God gives Moses the Gom Jabbar box test, right, from Dune. Put your hand in the box. What's in the box? Pain. And he puts his hand in the box, and the Bene Gesserit witch says, "You feel a slight itching." And then it like catches fire, and the meat's dropping off his bones and stuff in the box. And I hold at your neck the Gom Jabbar. If he flinches or takes his hand out of the box, she sticks him with it. Now, God doesn't stick him with a Gom Jabbar, but he has him put his hand in its cloak. So Moses put his hand in his cloak, and when he took it out, it was leprous, like snow. Now put it back in your cloak. So Moses put his hand back into his cloak, and when he took it out, it was restored, like the rest of his flesh. And then the Lord said, "If they do not believe you or pay attention to the first miraculous sign, they may believe the second. But if they do not believe these two signs or listen to you, take some water from the Nile and pour it on the dry ground. The water you take from the river will become blood on the ground." Moses said to the Lord, "O Lord, I have never been eloquent, neither in the past nor since you have spoken to your servant. I am slow of speech and tongue." Remember, we know why that is now. The Lord said to him, "Who gave man his mouth, and who makes him deaf or mute, and who gives him sight or makes him blind? Is it not I, the Lord? Now go, and I will help you speak, and I will teach you what to say." But Moses said, "Oh, Lord, please send someone else to do this." The Lord's anger burned against Moses, and he said, "What about your brother, Aaron the Levite? I know he can speak well. He is already on his way to meet you, and his heart will be glad when he sees you. You shall speak to him and put words in his mouth, and I will help both of you speak and will teach you what to do. And he will speak to the people for you, and it will be as if he were your mouth, and as if you were God to him. But take the staff in your hand so you can perform the miraculous signs with it." So if we flip it and rewind it a little bit, the Legends of the Jews expounds on these three wonders that Moses does. To these three wonders that Moses does, being the staff turning into a serpent, the leprosy hand, and the water into blood. So I'm just going to pick and choose through here to kind of add some context to it. "Will be executed by this rod. It was my wish to distinguish thee and make thee my instrument for doing my miracles, but thou deservest a punishment for having suspected my children of lack of faith. The children of Israel are believers and sons of believers, but thou wilt show myself the little faith in thy career. And as thou followest the example of the slanderous serpent, thou shalt be punished with leprosy, wherewith the serpent was punished." So when he's talking about the leprosy bit, he says, "The second wonder connected with the rod of Moses likewise conveyed a double meaning, and that it pointed to the coming redemption of Israel, and taught Moses a specific lesson. At the bidding of God, Moses casts his rod onto the ground, and it became a serpent to show him that when he traduced Israel, he was following the example of the abusive serpent, and also to show him there was a great dragon that lieth in the midst of the rivers of Egypt. Though he was now hacking into Israel with his teeth, would be rendered harmless like a rod of wood, which has no power to bite. And again, through the third miracle, God conveyed Moses that would happen in the later years of his own life. The sign he gave him was to make known to him that before the water came, blood would flow at the rock of Meribah. And when Moses would strike it after uttering the hasty, impatient words that was destined to bring death down upon him. The Legends of the Jews expounds further, and it says, for 7 days God urged Moses to undertake the mission he desired him to execute. He resorted to persuasion that the heathen might not say that he abused his power as the ruler of the world, forcing men to do his service against their will. But Moses remained stubborn, and he could not be won over. Thou dost wrong unto me, and sending me to Pharaoh. In the palace of the Egyptian king, there are persons that know how to speak the 70 languages of the world. So no matter what language a man may use, there is someone that understands him. If I should come as thy representative, and I should discover that I am not able to converse in these 70 languages, they will mock me, and they will say, behold this man, he pretends to be an ambassador of the creator of the world, but he can't speak these 70 languages. And this God made a reply as to follow. Adam, who was taught by none, could give names to the beasts in the 70 languages. Was it not I that made him speak? So old Moses is just trepidation. Like, he does not want to fucking do this at all. He doesn't want to go deal with Moses. He doesn't want to take this weight. He's like, look, I'm out, bro. I'm out. I could just stay here and fuck Zipporeth and hang out with Jethro, for the rest of my days. Maybe I can even go back to Ethiopia and be king again. But God's like, nope, wrong, you're going back. So I wonder, in the grand scheme of things, if this might be about like a survivor's guilt. Like, he feels bad that he was able to flee, and he knows, like, his people, the Hebrews, the Israelites, are stuck there building the fucking pyramids and shit under the whip of the Pharaoh. I imagine that has something to do with it, right? And he keeps just saying no. He's like, I'm not an eloquent man. I am not going. I have no kind of experience doing this. I'm not an eloquent man. And God answers him again. Let it not fret thee that thou art not an eloquent speaker. It is I that made the mouth of all that speak, and I that made men dumb. One I make to see another, I make blind, and another to hear, and another to make deaf. Had I willed it so, thou hadst been a man of ready speech, but I desired to show a wonder through thee. Whenever I will it, the words I cast in thy mouth will come forth without hesitation. But what I saith about a slave, that he cannot be corrected by words, is true. And therefore I give thee my rod for Pharaoh's castigation. But Moses, ever stubborn, stands his ground, and he raised other objections. He says, his grandchild, he said, is closer to a man than his nephew. Nevertheless, when Lot was taken captive, thou didst send angels to the aid of Abraham's nephew. But now in the life of 60 myriads of Abraham's lineal descendants is at stake, thou sendest me, and not the angels. And when the Egyptian bondswoman Hagar was distressed, thou didst dispatch 5 angels to stand by her, and to redeem 60 myriads of the children of Sarah. So this first bit that he's talking about, Lot and Abraham, that's right out of World War Zero, the World War Zero episode. Back in the featured topic links. And he's talking about Hagar. And God answered him, and he's saying, I said not that I would send thee to Israel, but to Pharaoh. and that one whom thou madest mention of I will send to Israel at the end of days. Elijah will appear to them before the great and terrible day. If Moses refused to do this errand of the Lord, there was good reason. God had revealed to him the treasures of the Torah, the wisdom, the knowledge of the whole world's future. And now he beheld in the inner chamber of God's rows of scholars and judges interpreting the Kabbalah, or interpreting the Torah in 49 different ways. They sat in the court of hewn stone. And he saw besides Rabbi Akiba, God's messenger, and let rather send one of these great scholars. And God ordered the angel of wisdom to carry Moses to a place of myriads of scholars, all interpreting the Torah and all making use of the formula. This is the halakha revealed to Moses on Mount Sinai. Now Moses recognized that even the greatest scholars of future generations would be dependent upon him, and then at last he was ready to execute the mission God desired to lay upon him. But Moses had to pray dear for having hesitated in the execution of the divine bidding. God said to him, it was appointed that all thou should be a priest, and Aaron should be the Levite, because thou hast refused to execute my will. Thou shalt be a Levite, and Aaron shall be a priest. A punishment that did not fall upon Moses personally, but upon his descendants, all of whom are Levites. As for himself, he performed a priest's service in the tabernacle. Moses had said to God, thou hast been speaking to me now these many days, and nevertheless I am still slow of speech and slow of tongue. For this he received another punishment. God said to him, I might change thee into a new man, and heal thee of thy imperfect speech. But because thou hast uttered such words, I refrain from curing thee. So here it is. Moses finally gave in and declared that he was ready to go to Egypt as God's messenger. But he made a deal with Jethro once where he said, I'll never go back to Egypt without giving your consent. So the first thing he had to do was go and talk to Jethro and be like, yo, Jethro, I'm going to go back to Egypt. I'm going back to Egypt, to Egypt, to Egypt. I'm going back to Egypt. I don't think so. So he loads up all the donkeys with all of his people, his wife and his kids and his servants and his shit, and they go. And here's another little echo of an echo. God, the master of history sort of thing that happened, the master of time. At last Moses sallied forth upon his journey to Egypt, accompanied by his wife and his children, and he was mounted upon the very ass that had borne Abraham to Mount Moriah. And the ass which the Messiah will appear riding at the end of days. Even now, his journey begun, Moses was but half-hearted about his mission, and he traveled leisurely, thinking, when I arrive in Egypt and announce to the children of Israel the end of the term of the Egyptian slavery has come, they will say, we know very well that our bondage must last 400 years, and the end is not yet. But if I were to put this objection before God, he would break out in wrath against me. It is best for me to consume as much time as possible on the way thither. So he's like, man, we know because of the prophecy that he gave to Abraham in his vision that the slavery is supposed to last 400 years. And he's like, well, maybe I could stretch it out to 400 years if I just lollygag my way. But the point of me reading that paragraph is I love it that it's the same donkey. It's the same donkey that that Abraham rides. It's the same donkey that the Messiah is going to ride in. I love it. I think it's so cool. I mean, they have to know that donkeys don't last for thousands of years, but it's a nice touch. I like it the same reason that I like when they reuse geography, where they reuse sets. They reused the locations, like the well, right, that we talked about for the last. I guess that was the first Exodus episode. Okay, so the next we get into an angel fight. So we got to talk about that. So he's on the road and he's dragging ass. And God was ill pleased with Moses. And he spake to him and he said, Joseph prophesied long ago that the oppression of Egypt would endure 210 years. For his lack of faith, Moses was punished while he was on the road to Egypt. The angels, Oph and Hema, which are two angels that we seen in the heavens when Moses was giving his tour. So these are actually the two angels that Metatron told Moses to fear not and to not be terrified. Oph is the angel of anger, and Hema is the angel of wrath. They were created at the beginning of the world to execute his will. So these are the two angels that catch up with Moses when he's intentionally dragging ass and not trying to get to Egypt. Often Hema appeared and swallowed his whole body down to his feet, and they gave him up only after Zipporah, nimble as a bird, circumcised her son Gershom and touched the feet of her husband with the blood of the circumcision. The reason why their son had remained uncircumcised until then was that Jethro made the condition when he consented to the marriage of her daughter with Moses that the first son of their union would be brought up as a Gentile. We covered this, I believe, 2 episodes ago. When Moses was released by these angels, he attacked them, and he slew Hema, with whose host of angels, however, held their own before the assailant. The divine voice heard by Moses in Midian telling them to return to his brethren in Egypt fell the same time upon the ear of Aaron dwelling in Egypt, and bade him to go into the wilderness to meet Moses. God spaketh marvelously with his voice, and therefore the same revelation could be understood in one way in Midian and the other way in Egypt. And the greeting of the two brothers was very cordial. Envy and jealousy had no place between them. Aaron was rejoiced that God has chosen his younger brother to be the Redeemer of Israel, and Moses was rejoiced that his older brother had been divinely appointed the high priest in Israel. And God knew their hearts for the time when he charged them with the Egyptian mission. Moses had said, all these years Aaron has been active as a prophet in Israel, and should say, now encroach upon his province and cause him vexation. But God reassured him, saying, Moses, thy brother Aaron, will surely not be vexed, and will rather rejoice at thy mission. Yea, he will come forth and meet thee. Aaron showed his joy freely, his brother, once more, after their separation of many years. For his joy in the distinction, according to Moses, he was too great to be expressed in all the depths and extent. For his kind and generous spirit, he received a reward from God, and that he was permitted to bear the Urim and the Thummim on his heart. For God said, the heart and the rejoicing, the exalting of the brother shall wear the Urim and Thummim. So I'm trying to figure out the best way to describe this Urim and Thummim. And remember in Indiana Jones, Raiders of the Lost Ark movie, at the end when Belloc has like the hat and like the breastplate with all the jewels and stuff on it? This is called the Hoshin. It's the breastplate worn by the high priest. And these Urim and Thummim are aspects or components to this breastplate. All right, back to it. Aaron ran to meet his brother. They embraced him and asked him where he'd spent all these years after their separation. And he told them that he was in Midian and continued to question him, saying, "Who are these that are traveling with thee? And Moses is like, "My wife and my sons. Whether goest thou with them?" And Moses said, "We're going to Egypt." And that's where we're going to leave it this evening. We're leaving it right there. I'm John, and this has been the Abracast. I hope you enjoyed the show. I'm loving these Exodus episodes. Just to let you know, though, what happens immediately after that. I ended it there for dramatic effect. But Aaron's like, "What the fuck are you doing? You're taking your wife and your kids to Egypt. Don't you know there's slaves there?" And Moses is like, "Oh yeah, you're right." And he sends his family back to Jethro. But they're getting their guns loaded, and Aaron and Moses are on their way to confront Pharaoh. And that's kind of where we're leaving it this evening. So thank you guys. Hey, I did a drawing of. I did some artwork for the "Fear Not and Be Not Terrified," saith Metatron. So I'm gonna throw it up on my my Instagram. Maybe I'll do a t-shirt or something of it. But it's pretty cool. It's about these Af, Anger, and Hama, Wrath, these two angels that we were just talking about from the second episode. And these guys were each 500 parasangs in height, forged out of black chains, fire. They were forged out of chains, black fire and red fire. The angels Af, Anger, and Hema, Wrath, whom God created at the beginning of the world to execute as well. Well, if you remember in the story, Moses started to get a little freaked out. And Metatron was like, yo, it's cool, bro. Fear not and be not terrified. Anyhow, I did the artwork. I'll post it up on my Instagram. Maybe throw it on a t-shirt or something for next time. I'm John, and this has been the Abracast. I hope you guys are enjoying the show. Thank you very much. Check out Abracast.com.
You can find Stigmata Studios, graphic, novels, and comic books. Take control of your destiny. Understand your past. Put your present in context and know your future with a twist. Check out the designs and watch the videos about the Abracast Tarot card deck. Your body is your temple, so let's make sure you got a badass t-shirt on it. Variety of cool occult themed t-shirts and other merch like stickers, wall art, mugs, and more. Welcome to the Red Archive. Get access to over 50 hours of archived episodes, more bonus audio, additional exclusive content. All this for only $1 a month. Are you interested in the occult, history, conspiracy, and violence? Learn more at Abracast.com. Thank you for listening, and we hope that you enjoyed the show. Please send an email or find us on social media and let us know what you think about the show. We would appreciate it if you would give us a 5-star rate and review wherever you find your favorite podcasts.